submission or to submit, these are a word that's not warm and fuzzy. When you hear the word submission or you hear the word submit, it's not something that just lights us up and says, oh, that's one of my favorite words. I just love to submit. I just love what submission means. I mean, it's actually the opposite, right? And when you hear the word submit or you hear the word submission, you think defeat, you think giving up, you think having to come under something, you think about having to sacrifice your freedom or your time or something when it comes to submit. There's just no part of us that wants to be a part of submission. We're in a journey where we're working our way through a letter that the Apostle Peter wrote to a group of churches in northern Turkey. And if you're familiar with the New Testament at all, the book of Galatians or the letter to the church in Galatia, they're included in this area. And he's writing to them to encourage them because they're under persecution. He's writing to them so that they will have a better understanding of the proper doctrine of what it means to be a Christian. And up to our point in our journey so far, we've looked at a lot of theology and a lot of doctrine, and now we're going to start stepping into some practical aspects of things. And one of the things that begins in chapter 2, we're going to be in chapter 2, verses 11 through 17 today. But we're about to enter into a section where this word submit or submission is a theme. There is the submission to the government. Yuck. There is this submission that slaves are supposed to have to their slave owners. What in the world is that about? And why is that in the Bible? And are you kidding me? What are we talking about here? And then if that's not enough, he goes into this deal where your wives are supposed to submit to your husbands because you're weak. So the next 2 or 3 weeks are going to be a lot of fun. As we talk about submitting to the government and we talk about submitting to stuff, but it is going to be fun. It is going to be good. It is going to be, we're going to learn some things, or at least we're going to be reminded of some things. Now today, we're going to talk about the submission to the government. Next week, on Mother's Day, we're going to talk about slaves submitting to the master. So now I didn't pick that. That is just the way that it lined up, okay? That's just the way that it lined up. But today, we're going to talk about government. So let me read 1 Peter, 2nd chapter, starting with verse 11. Verse 11 will go through verse 17. It says, "Dear friends, I urge you as strangers and exiles to abstain from sinful desires that wage war against the soul. Conduct yourselves honorably among the Gentiles, so that when they slander you as evildoers, they will observe your good works and will glorify God on the day He visits. Submit to every human authority because of the Lord, because to the emperor as the supreme authority, or to governors as those sent out by him to punish those who do what is evil and praise those who do what is good. For it is God's will that you silence the ignorance of foolish people by doing good. Submit as free people, not using your freedom as a cover-up for evil, but as God's slaves. Honor everyone, love the brothers and sisters, fear God, honor the emperor." So let's look at that. If you're taking notes, the first thing that we're going to look at is what I've titled Act the Part. We see that in verse 11. In verse 11, Peter starts off and he says, "Dear friends." Now your translation may see beloved. He said, "Beloved, dear friends." And the thing that we need to take away from this is Peter's writing to a group of people that he loves. Peter's writing to a group of people that he cares about. He's trying to lead people that he cares about, people that he loves. Leadership, as we talk about authority, really today's sermon, the topic is authority and what authority is supposed to be in our life and how we're supposed to respond to that. And when you have authority in life, and we all have authority in our life, when the person or persons that are in that authority, when they don't love who they're leading, it's a problem. When they love themselves or they love their agenda, or they love their platform more than they love the people that they're leading, that's a problem. That's a problem in the home. It's a problem at school. It's a problem at work. It's a problem on the football field or baseball field or whatever. It's a problem. Because what happens when you have a leader, when you have someone who's in a place of authority and they don't love the people they're leading, what does that person turn into? A tyrant, a dictator, an abuser? This is what that is. So here we see, just because you can see it from Peter, you can hear it as he's saying, listen, dear friends, he said, beloved. And he has a love for them. And he goes in and he says, I urge you as strangers and exiles. Strangers and exiles. So we have these two words again that he's using. He's used them earlier in the letter. And he's writing to them to remind them to say, listen, you are strangers and you're exiles. Because when you give your life to Christ, when you say that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and he is the way. So here's the way that we're supposed to live. Here's some things we're supposed to do. Here's some things we're not supposed to do. Here's the way to talk. Here's the way we don't talk. Here's the way we act. Here's the way we don't act. This is what we do at our time. This is not what we do at our time. When you do that, when you go all in and you start following God, you're going to be weird. You're going to be strange. You're going to be an alien. You're not going to fit. You're not going to fit into the world around you. When you have a Jesus worldview, you cannot make that line up with the world's view. And when you do that, you're going to be a stranger. You're going to be an alien. That is just the way that it is. And some people in church are trying to marry those two, and you cannot. And here Peter is letting them know that you're strangers, you're exiles. That is just the way that it's going to be. And then he says to abstain from sinful desires. Now the word abstain literally in the Greek means to hold oneself back from. Hold oneself back from constantly. Constantly holding yourself back. That's what the Greek word abstain here means. It also can simply mean stop. So stop the sinful desires. If I can stop the sinful desires, then I have a better chance to overcome the sinful act. Whatever the sinful act is. Peter does not list off a list of sins. You know what sins are. You know what's destructive. You know what brings life to you. You know what takes life away. He's saying abstain from that. Now, as a follower of Jesus, if you've declared and received the gospel, there are some things you must know. You must be reminded of. Your sins have been removed. Which ones? All of them. There's a second part of the gospel. Your sin nature has been crucified. It has been nailed to the cross. Romans 6:6, Galatians 2:20. Your sin nature has been crucified. The sin maker has been crucified. Why does someone who doesn't know God sin? It's because they're simply following their nature. They are doing what is natural. They are true to themselves. People who don't know God, people who are not walking with God, people who have not tasted of the forgiveness of Jesus are very true to their true selves. That's just what they do. Now, Christians have a problem with that because we get caught up in having a dual identity. We got this Jesus identity, but we also got this thing over here where we're trying to be in the world identity. And Peter's saying, listen, you need to abstain from this. You get away from it. You don't have anything to do with it. See, Adam and Eve in the garden did not have a sin nature. God did not create them with a sin nature. God breathed his life into Adam. So Adam had to be tempted. Eve had to be tempted. The evil one came in, the deceiver came in, the father of all lies, who was what Jesus calls him, and he came in and he lied. And they had to be tempted. They didn't have a sin nature. Jesus was born of a virgin, has an earthly mom. He has a spiritual father. He does not have a sin nature. So Jesus had to be tempted. Now, Jesus did what Adam couldn't do. Adam couldn't say no. Jesus said no. Now, you were born with a sin nature. So nobody has to teach you how to sin. And you didn't have to sin to be a sinner because you were born a sinner. Now, when you step over into salvation, now you are a new creation. You are a new being. You no longer have a sin nature. But the temptation is still there. And the temptation will come at you. And will come at you hard. And so Peter is saying, listen, abstain from that. Constantly hold yourself back from it. Don't have anything to do with it. And he goes on to say, he says, listen, this is a way, because sinful desires wage a war against your soul. Your body, soul, and spirit. If you've given your life to Christ, your spirit is all good. But your soul is jacked up. And the war that's going on is for your soul as a Christian. Because he can't have your spirit, but he can mess up your soul. And how does he mess up your soul? La, 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 la. Liar, liar, pants on fire. That is what the evil one is. And so he's saying, stay away from it. Did you ever notice the Christian life feels like a battle? Do you know why it feels like a battle? Because it is a battle. This is what it is. This is a fight. And so he's reminding them of that. And then the second thing, so there's act the part. We got to live in our true identity. Live in your true identity. Stop living in your dead identity. Stop living in a false identity, but live in your true identity. And then the second one in verse 12, the thing is people are watching. Look at verse 12. Conduct yourselves honorably among the Gentiles so that when they slander you as evildoers, they will observe your good works and will glorify God on the day he visits. Now look, he says conduct yourselves. Well, what's conduct yourselves? It means to behave. Behave. My behavior matters. Your behavior matters. And then he talks about honorably. You need to conduct yourselves in an honorable way. Well, what does honorable mean? Honorable means here high respect, high esteem. So I should be living in a life because I've given my life to Christ. Jesus is the way. I should have a high esteem and I should have high respect for everyone. High respect and high honorably. This is what I'm supposed to do. Now he says among the Gentiles, and that seems a little weird because he's writing to Gentiles. And what is he talking about there? If you've got a good study Bible, it should have an asterisk spot, and you go down at the bottom and read and say this could be and should be translated nations. Or pagan. Now, pagan is simply a scriptural word for someone who is not a believer. Okay? So it really better reads like this. Conduct yourselves honorably among the nations. Or conduct yourselves honorably among the pagans or those who don't believe. So that when they slander you, Peter is not saying if they slander you, but when they slander you. When Jesus talked about persecution, he didn't say, if they persecute you in my name. He said, when they persecute you. When Paul talked about it, he didn't say if, he said when. And when John wrote about it, he didn't say if, he said when. Slander, attacking you verbally. Now remember, they're being attacked. Christianity is being attacked, not because the Romans necessarily didn't love Jesus or were against Jesus. The Romans were for all kinds of gods. The more gods, the merrier. They're having a God party. Bring your God. We'll have a good time. Okay, that's what they were. But they really liked old stuff. And if it was new, they didn't like it. So early on, so you had Judaism. So the Romans had no problems with the Jews. Now, Christianity, when Christianity begins, Jesus ascends, walks out of the grave, then everything changed. Now, Christianity for a little bit stayed under the umbrella of Judaism. And when Christianity was staying under Judaism, there was no problem. But once, Peter and John and Paul and all of them got that straight, it's like, wait a minute. We can't be under Judaism. We're separate from that. We come out of that, but we're not that. So now they don't have the protection of Judaism. Now they're out here all by themselves. And the Romans hate new. And the Romans hate anybody that's saying that their God is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And they're going to hate anybody that says their God is going to rule the world. So then the persecution comes. Now notice he says to slander you. He says, listen. Conduct yourselves honorably among the Gentiles so that when they slander you as evildoers, when you stand for the truth, when you stand for what Jesus says to stand for, when you are in the way of Jesus, people are going to accuse you of being evil. I don't know if you watch the news. I don't know if you're on the Twitter machine. I don't know if you're paying attention to what's going on in the world. But if you stand up for the truth, you stand up and say, this is what marriage has always been and this is what it needs to be. And a man is a man and a woman is a woman. Even if you're not a biologist, a man is a man and a woman is a woman. And you start standing up for the truth, what happens? You're attacked. You're the evil one. That's what's happening. Now, this was written 2,000 years ago. It ain't new. It's been going on for a long time. Relax. You're not special. We're not special. We're just fighting the same war that's been going on for a really long time. And here Peter's saying, listen, when this happens, conduct yourselves honorably among the Gentiles, so that when they slander you as evildoers, they will observe your good works and will glorify God when he visits. So how do you change somebody's mind? You ever change anybody's mind with an argument? No. You have a much better chance of changing someone's mind by how you're treating them, by your behavior, by holding them up in high esteem, by treating them with respect, by doing good works. That will make a difference. So we got to act the part, and we got to understand that people are watching. And then in verse 13 and 14, we get into this authority thing. Verse 13, submit. There's that word. Submit to every human authority because of the Lord, whether to the emperor as the supreme authority or to governors as those sent out by him to punish those who do what is evil and to praise those who do what is good. Authority is God's plan. Man did not create authority. God did. There's authority in heaven and there's authority on earth. God has set up authority in the family. God has set up authority in the government. God has set up authority on the playing field. He has set up authority in the jungle. There's some things that are at the top of the food chain. Guess who's in charge? They are. Okay? So that authority has been established. Authority is not man's creation, and authority is not a bad thing. Is authority abused? Yes. But authority in itself is from God, and we have to understand that is God's plan. Notice the purpose of the government. In this verse, in verse 14, he tells us what the purpose of the government is. Did you catch it? Let me read it again. You listen for the purpose of the government. Or to governors, as those sent out by him to punish those who do what is evil and praise those who do what is good. So what's the purpose of government? To punish the menace to society and to praise and to reward those who do the right thing. This is the purpose of government. Government is there for our protection. Government is to reward those who do good and to punish those who do not do good. That is the purpose of government. The purpose of government is not to legislate morality. The purpose of government is not to tell you how to live your life. That is not what the purpose of government is. The purpose of government is not to control you. That is not what the purpose of the government is. And some people say, well, I want the government to legislate morality. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because they can legislate their version of morality, and when you don't have God's way, truth is always changing. And so you got to be careful with that. When my girls were in school, like Madison was taking biology, and I would have a conversation with someone. They said, well, don't Madison's teacher at school to be teaching her, the Christian stuff and this? And I was like, no, I don't. I will teach her that. I will teach her what it means to follow God. I will teach her what morality is. I don't want her high school biology teacher teaching her that. You know what I want her high school biology teacher teaching her? Biology. Thank you. You get it. That's what I want them teaching. Leave the morality, leave the religion, leave the walk into God to us That's the church's job. That's your job, not the public school teacher's job. Now, the purpose of government is to praise those that are doing it well and to punish those that are not. So our behavior matters. Verse 15. For it is God's will that you silence the ignorance of foolish people by doing good. For it is God's will that you silence the ignorance of foolish people by doing good. Why isn't that a refrigerator verse? Why isn't that the verse on the calendar? Why don't any of you tattoo people have that tattooed? If you don't get a verse tattooed, get that one tattooed. And your tattoo can say this: shut up, stupid people, by doing good. Peter. Because that's what he's saying. He says, let your good works silence the foolish. Not your arguments, not your political party, not your opinion, but your works. How are you treating people? How are you holding them in high esteem? Are you honoring them? That's what's going to make the difference. We're told the specific will of God here, and a lot of times people are always trying to figure out what the will of God is. There it is. I mean, you don't have to figure that out. You don't even have to go on a retreat. You don't even have to go to Pure Heart to figure out what the will of God is. It's right there. It tells you the will of God is do good stuff. And if you do good stuff, you do the stuff that God says to do, people notice. And then life starts to be different. So authority is God's plan. Our behavior matters. And then you get verse 16. In verse 16, submit. There's that word again. Submit as free people, not trusting freedom as a cover-up for evil, but as God's slaves. Oh my. As God's slave. This is important. Submission to authority does not negate Christian liberty. I'm going to say that again. Submission to authority does not negate Christian liberty. Great example of that we find in Acts chapter 4. Acts chapter 4, verse 19. We have Peter and John. Now, Peter and John in Acts chapter 4 have been arrested. The government has arrested them. The authorities have arrested them. They have been a menace to society. Was it because they got a DUI? No. Were they selling crack on the corner? No. Did they not pay their child support? No. What were they doing? Why did they get arrested? They were preaching the gospel. They were preaching a resurrected Christ. Listen to how they answered the authorities. Peter and John answered them. I just picture them in unison, both saying this. Whether it's right in the sight of God for us to listen to you rather than to God, you decide. That was their way of honoring authority. You decide. You're sitting in that spot. You decide if it's right for us to listen to you or to listen to God. You decide. For we are unable to stop speaking about what we have seen and heard. In other words, they're saying, put us in jail if you have to. Beat us if you have to. Take our life if you have to. But we ain't stopping. All right? So we don't lose our religious freedom. We don't have to, that doesn't mean we just let people do whatever they're going to do and let the government do whatever they're going to do. No. We never sacrifice our faith to appease authority. Never. Now, if you get pulled over for speeding, don't tell the policeman God told you to go fast. That is not what I'm talking about. Obey the laws. Stop at the red lights. Put the trash in the trash can. If you step over trash, pick it up. I know my wife is going to amen this. When you empty the grocery cart, put it in the grocery cart thingy. Don't leave it in the parking lot. Be a good citizen. Pay your taxes. Hire a good tax accountant and pay as little as possible. But pay your taxes. Be a good citizen. But we don't sacrifice our truth for the government. Can you push back on authority? Yes. Can you question authority? Yes. If the person you're coming under authority to cannot handle pushback, cannot handle a question, run. That's not a place you need to be. Now, there's a right way to do that. And sometimes that means, sir, can I say I disagree? And I think we should do this. But unless you say otherwise, I'm doing what you're saying. Because I respect the position and the authority of whatever that position is. I love verse 17 because verse 17 is a summary verse. And next week when we talk about this, the master and the slave thing, and then when we get to the how the family structure is set up, there's some things in there that just kind of make us go crazy. But each time Peter does a summary verse. And if we'll focus on those summary verses, we're going to be in a lot better spot, okay? So here's the summary verse. Verse 17, honor everyone, love the brothers and sisters, fear God, honor the emperor. So in summary, if you're taking notes, we're supposed to respect, honor, and value and esteem who? Everyone. Respect, honor, value, and esteem everyone. It is the Jesus way. That is how you do good. You respect, honor, and value, and esteem everyone. Second thing, it says, love the family of believers. Love the family of believers. It says brothers and sisters, and it's not talking about siblings there. It's talking about those who are in the family of Christ. And we often miss this. We know that God loves the world. We know that we're supposed to evangelize the world. We're not supposed to love our neighbor. All of that's true, absolutely. But I'm starting to notice as I read through the New Testament, this is starting to jump out at me when I come across it, because I'm starting to come across it in a lot of the different letters where the writer is saying, love each other, support each other. And I think the reason that Peter's saying this is because he's already told us that we're in a war. And when you're in a war, what do you need? Support. You need encouragement. You need somebody to bandage the wound. You need rest. The battles that we should be fighting should be out there. We shouldn't come to church and be fighting the battles. That ain't it. So love each other. And then he says to fear God. And that's not sit in the corner and shake and be all scared of God. No, it's to have awe and reverence. And one of the commentaries I was reading as I was prepping for this, I can't remember which one, or I'd give it credit. But it's this. He doesn't care because he's probably dead. Never respect people. Sorry. Let me start over. You'll never respect people until you respect God. You'll never respect people until you respect God. And we get it backwards. We're trying to respect people and thinking that's somehow going to please God. If we'll respect Him, then the respecting and loving of the people will come. And then the last one is honor authority. Whether that's family authority, school authority, government authority, work authority, church authority. Are we to blindly follow? No. Are we to never push back? No. Are we to disobey authority just because we don't like it? No. Are we to engage? Yes. Can we ask questions? Yes. Can we critique? Yes. Now let me say this. We'll be done. Authority is often abused. Football coaches have abused authority. Pastors have abused authority. Teachers have abused authority. Policemen have abused authority. Authority has been abused. And when you find yourself in that situation, it hurts. But just because authority is abused doesn't mean we can throw authority out the window. That is not the way God has set it up. You pray with me. Father, it's your truth. May you use it for your glory. In your name we pray. Amen.